Choices, Inc. Now, here's a different view.
Welcome to A Different View. I'm Jennifer here with Iva. How are you doing tonight, Iva?
I'm doing well. Bear with us. We're going to have, we have Brian on the controls here, and he's figuring out a lot of stuff for the first time. We just kind of threw him in the fire. And we said, find your own water, Brian.
Russ, our regular engineer, is off at the Legal Aspen conference. So
that's right. Well, that's over now. He's actually on tour with the F&As. That's what he's doing right now.
Oh, well, either way, he's on the road. He's not here with us. So as usual, we'll figure our way through it. So tonight we're going to talk about a couple of different stories. The first one is going to be about New York passing medical marijuana. The second one is going to be about an activist, Curtis Kyle, who is traveling 520 miles to raise awareness about legal marijuana.
That's right, from Michigan to the White House, 520 miles.
And then we've got, in our third segment, PTSD is now a qualifying condition here in Oregon. It's something that activists here have worked long and hard for, and we got it. And then in our fourth segment, I just kind of want to rant a little bit about another bill that passed here in Oregon, and it's happening around the country as well. Bans on smoking anything with minors in the car, and we'll go on about that a little bit because I have my own little petty frustrations with that law. So anyway, you're listening to A Different View. I think we're going to take a quick break and come back in just a few minutes to talk some more about all these stories.
That's great.
law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215, or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
All right. Well, we're looking up technical difficulties. You're listening to a different view. New studio. I don't know what I'm doing here. There we go. See, you told me and I didn't do it right. Darn it. Okay. Well, I'm Iva Cunningham. You're listening to a different view. Can you hear me now, Jennifer? She can't hear anything. Can you hear
me now?
I can hear you now.
Awesome. No, it's not. There's a bad feedback echo on our side. So I'm going to mute you while I talk and then try to unmute you so I don't hear this.
That's not going to work.
That's not going to work.
You can't hear what I have to say. Nope. All right. Okay. We're just gonna have to deal with the echo. I'm sorry, folks. We have to work out technical difficulties all the time, and tonight's not going to be any different. But bear with us. We have a lot to talk about tonight. First on the agenda is New York, another state that is taking a look at medical marijuana. In fact, on Monday, a bill that would allow medical marijuana sailed through the New York State Assembly, passing with a clean 95-38. If it makes it to the Senate, folks with debilitating life-threatening conditions could be prescribed marijuana by their doctors. There's a lot of, obviously there's always the pro and the cons, for and against. There's a few people who are not real crazy about it, of course. Bloomberg. Medical marijuana, one of the great hoaxes of all time, clearly doesn't have any compassion for people suffering from serious debilitating diseases that could only use cannabis, or cannabis works better for them, or, just simply people who choose not to use harsh drugs. It's really that simple. It's a choice of, what type of effect you want to have on your body and what type of side effect you want to have. Can you still hear me, Jennifer? Can you still hear me?
And I can't hear you. I think we're just going to push buttons.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Hey, okay, it's like
now
Verizon.
I can hear you. Go ahead. Yes. What were you saying?
Not to repeat myself, talking about New York passing its the first passive bill through the House and onto the Senate. But there are several people that are not fans of it, Bloomberg being one of them. In his view, this is a quote from medical. Come on, there's no medical. This is one of the great hoaxes of all time, is what he said.
Yeah.
And basically he's going on that same reefer madness. Mayor, I've been told, again, not backing up with any science or anything like that, but or any logical thought, but much stronger today. That that same old reefer madness is stronger today than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And then, of course, he doesn't have any experience with it in terms of today. And then he has drug dealers have family to fill. If they can't sell marijuana, they'll sell something else.
Well, I was going to say the way that he made that comment sounds like prohibition is a jobs program for drug dealers in his mind, that we can't end prohibition because these drug dealers need to support their families. And that quote just sort of cracked me up because I don't think that was intent with the way that he said it. But pretty much what he was saying is if they're not selling pot, they'll be selling something worse, and we want to keep them selling pot.
Well, I think the thing is that we have to keep pointing back to the failed drug war. It's not just about pot; it's about the failure of the drug
that they feel are compelling, which is that it's just bad to sell drugs in general. It's a little hard to. It's a little hard when you and I know the facts, but when you've got people who really don't know and they're not really versed in it, I can see how they would want, how the panic would concern them. But, I mean, I'm not surprised by his opinion, by any, or his quotes, because he's not immersed in this subject matter. He doesn't really know. And like you said, it's his job to protect the city from the scourge of drug dealers and people who do drugs. It's I don't know. I'm not really surprised by that, but it's still though at 95 to 38. It's 81 I think percent of people 81% passed are in favor of this. So I think that's compelling in itself. So regardless of what Bloomberg thinks or what he says, there's clearly a lot of support to get medical marijuana on books. Either they're taking a look at the revenue that other states are looking at, they're seeing legalization come down the road, and this is a try before you buy kind of situation, or they are they are realistic about the situation. They're in New York, it's commonplace. It's a common drug for socializing, and they don't care. There are worse issues to deal with.
Well, and I haven't really followed Bloomberg's opinion on most of these issues, but I know New York recently changed their law so that it was where if you stopped by police and asked to, show what was in their pocket, that suddenly possession of marijuana became a worse crime because now it's in public view instead of in their pocket in private, and that distinction changed the criminal charge that they would be charged with. So a lot of people were being charged by being told by police officers to empty their pockets and then having marijuana in public view. And they recently changed that, and I think that those like Bloomberg are seeing their ability to prosecute other crimes slip out from under them. Marijuana is used as an excuse in many cases to go after other criminal charges. For many police, they'll say, well, we were able to search them because they were smoking a joint and we found a murder weapon, or we found and basically circumstances are allowing them to catch other criminals by using laws against drugs. And I think that a lot of them are reluctant to let go of that open door. So that, I think, is really what we're facing with people like Bloomberg, is that they're losing enforcement tools, basically.
I also think that because, New York has had such a
problem with crack cocaine and heroin and and that sort of those sort of drugs. I think that marijuana unfortunately gets lumped into that same basket, because it is not. I'm not saying all, but a lot of drug dealers are selling the same product line, if you will. So I kind of see, if I were to stretch it and see it to his point, I could kind of see where he's coming from that aspect. But we all know that marijuana and crack cocaine are two different drugs. But still, it's one of those situations where it's still encouraging that it passed at 81%.
Yeah. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more laws changing around the country, in the coming year or two. I think that
there's 11
that are gearing up for a medical marijuana program. They have 11 states with pending legislation to legalize medical marijuana, and I'll just name off a few of them. It's Alabama, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Minnesota, Missouri, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and of course New York. So all of those 11 states to be added to the current 19 states that we have with medical marijuana on the books. That tells me that these states, that the country is definitely turning directions. But we need to take a quick break. Brian, do you have some music queued up there? Yep, we're ready to take a break. You're listening to A Different View. I'm Ivan Cunningham with Jennifer Alexander. We'll be right back.
Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, flower pipes.
All right. Well, tonight's guest is Curtis Kyle, and Curtis is a marijuana activist in Michigan. Curtis, can you hear us?
Hello.
I can't hear him. All right. Curtis, are you there?
Yes. How you doing?
Let me switch mics here. Sorry. There we go. Hey, that helps. All right, Curtis, bear with us. We're having a couple of technical difficulties. We've had to change studios, and Russ, the regular engineer, is not here, so we're stressing our poor little engineer Brian out. But tell us a little bit about your mission. You are taking a trip in your chair from where you live, which is
Taylor, Michigan.
Okay, and you were taking 530 miles. Is that correct?
It's actually 520 miles. 520? I want to go 40 miles a day is my plan.
Okay. And then...
And I want to reach the White House by the 4th of July.
Okay. And then when you get there, do you have anything planned when you get there? Or have you had a lot of sponsors? Or...
Well, I want to meet with President Obama. I wrote him a letter and asked him to... meet me at the front door because he has an open door policy, but I don't know if he's gonna meet me there or not. I haven't heard anything from him.
So he hasn't responded at all. And then, so what inspired you to do this?
Well, my father back in 1978, he walked to Washington D.C. from his home in Taylor. And he was the original founder of an organization that I recently started back up, United Marijuana Smokers of Michigan. And he passed away in 2011. Him and my sister both passed away 12 days apart due to cancer. And my father was an activist for 35 years. he was an alcoholic to begin with and stopped drinking and started smoking marijuana, and it saved his life. So I figured, well, I reopened his organization in 2012, and I figured this year I'd like to roll my wheelchair to Washington, D.C. in his honor. He wanted to see marijuana legalized. And that's my mission, is to see it get legalized here in this country, because I do feel that with marijuana legalized and hemp legalized to grow, it will save our planet.
Now, Curtis, I think people would hear your story, and, Michigan has medical marijuana, and can you tell me why medical marijuana isn't enough? Why for you legalization is more important?
Well, I have cerebral palsy, and I have had it since birth, and the only thing that happened when they legalized it for medicine is it didn't take it out of the hands of the people that were handling it originally. It just gave the black market another way to still keep control of it, and the price of it is outrageous. So anyone who really needs it for medicine, if they don't have a lot of money, they can't get it because insurance does not cover it.
Got it. So it's still really priced out of the hands of those who have chronic illnesses and financial situations due to those health crises. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying. If they were to legalize it, the government can produce marijuana for 14 cents an ounce, and the dispensaries that were opening here in the state of Michigan were getting anywhere between $15 to $35 for a gram of marijuana.
That's what they're currently asking?
That was what the dispensaries were asking for before they got shut down here in Michigan.
Wow.
I know there's still a few that are open, but the majority of the dispensaries did nothing but jack the price of it up. I mean, I have people calling me and asking me all the time if I can get them marijuana free because they can't afford it. And I try to do what I can, but it's just ridiculous. So
now, in your view, what do you think happened? Because Michigan did have dispensaries, and I know that there were several people that would come to Oregon, obtain their cards, and then go back because they couldn't qualify under Michigan's program, but they would go back. Do you think that had an impact on the dispensaries?
I'm not sure what led to the dispensaries getting closed down, or I'm not real sure, but I just know this, that they weren't helping the people that really needed it the most. They were out to make as much money as they can without worrying about the health of people. And I want to see it legal so doctors can experiment with it. So, because I do believe that it will cure some types of cancer. I've known some people that once they started smoking marijuana, if they had cancer, when we walk into a room before they started smoking, they'd be balled up in the fetal position on their bed, not wanting to talk to nobody. But after they took a couple drags off of marijuana, off of a joint, they would start acting more normal, actually come out, sit down on the living room couch and put their feet up on the coffee table and carry on a conversation. Now, if marijuana can save people's lives and reverse cancer, why aren't the government? I mean, they already know it's beneficial. They were giving it to 8 people, the federal government was, before they shut the program down.
Right.
So they already know that there's medical use. Right, but it goes way beyond the medical use, though. If they were to stop messing with people for marijuana, the law enforcement they would be able to concentrate on more issues
I think
besides throwing people that smoke marijuana in jail.
Right. And I think part of the issue is that, we talk about the money, the cost that goes into the medicine, and I worry, I want legalization like the next thing, but you did bring up a point, that everybody, I've said this for a while, everybody's in on the take, and if the drug dealers, are jacking the price up to, what did you say, 35 a gram?
35 a gram has been some of the grams that they've been selling. Now you can get it as low as 15, but as high as, I've seen it as high as $35.
Wow.
For a gram.
And I think that, the opponents to legalization, they have their money, they have their fingers in the money pot too. And everybody has that piece of that pie they don't want to let go of, this will be, us coming to terms with, just human rights, basic human rights. But, I've always felt like medical marijuana starts it, but like you said, it unless we have a complete program where the medicine is accessible and regulated and safe, we don't have a program worth anything, because a lot of patients will never qualify for the program. Doesn't matter where it's at, they're not going to get there.
And I'll tell you that right now, marijuana is a great stress reliever.
Mm-hmm.
And, without it, there's a lot of people that say that it's no good, but if you ask some people if they've ever actually tried it or know somebody who's tried it, they can't honestly tell you that they have. Marijuana has been proven to be safer than aspirin.
So Curtis, let's, for your role, for your mission, is there any way people can donate to your cause?
Yes, I do have a website set up. It's umsom.com.
Okay.
And they can also call or write me. My phone number is 734-752-0118.
And you're also on Facebook, and it's Curtis, Curtis, Kyle, Kile.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so when do you start your trip across the country to speak to
10 a.m. That's Friday the 14th. 10 a.m. in the morning. I plan to roll 40 miles a day until we get to the White House.
Now, will you be making certain stops along the way, or do you just plan to?
Yeah, we'll definitely have to stop, because I don't want to be rolling at night. It'll be too dangerous out there.
Sure, but when you stop, are you stopping in specific? When you stop, do you have any events planned along the way? Is what I'm asking.
Well, what we're going to do is we're actually going to stream it right to Facebook, because we don't have any actual planned stops per se, but we're going to stream it. People will be able to keep track of us on Facebook.
Well, I commend you for taking this trip. Be safe. It's a what you're doing. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of inner strength to put yourself out there, and so please be safe on the road. I know that I'll be watching you, and I'll be following your stream to see what your adventure, where your adventure takes you. And I hope that President Obama pays attention to this issue, and I hope that you are able to make the impact that you want to, and he'll come out and talk to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your show.
You are welcome.
And I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. That's Curtis Kile. He's on Facebook, CurtisKile. We'll be right back. You're listening to A Different View.
His ticket in hand, earphones all full of the melodies of his favorite band, with his worn out jeans and his rustic heart. This country boy is taking part in the city of trees, in the city a girl cross the motorway, patterned in blue. Shivering, she swigs from the snifter and looks for her shoes. There's a lull in time when their eyes both meet. Out there in the middle of the street, in the city of trees.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
Funky, delicious.
Oh yeah, that's right. Groovin'. Keeping it mellow here at the Funky Roller Ring. So join me, Big Daddy, every Thursday night. The doors open at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Groove on. Groove on.
Yo, what's up?
Excuse me as I kiss the sky.
With me, get ready to take all the blame. I'm just a con bud caught inside a nasty game. I'm a dame that's illegal. This drug's against the law. I'm the heart of the target in this fucking drug war. Let them fire, let them shoot. I don't give a hoot. They keep wasting all their time and spending all their loot. Face it, can't get more factual than this. Embrace a girl, don't get more natural than this. X marks the spot, homegrown buried treasure. Spark up that pop for your own burning pleasure. Matter of fact, I got your back. I'm on your all side. All the whack. How's about that blunt ride?
Excuse me as I kiss the sky.
Break me up and smoke me. Roll me tight, get up on a light and choke me. That's right. Take a big hit, let it sit for a bit. If you don't choke when you smoke, you're an idiot. Hear a crazy laugh, see a big lazy smile. Feeling hazy now, you'll be suited for a while. You know I got the monkeys.
Are we back? I don't have any audio.
Yes, we're back.
This is Jennifer. You're listening to A Different View. I think I'm live. So I think we've lost Iva for a minute due to our technical difficulties. So I'm going to jump to the fourth segment, which was a lot more what I wanted to talk about. And we'll come back with a third segment when we get Iva back on here. We were going to talk about Oregon legislature has passed a bill that would prohibit smoking in a car with minors. This means anybody under 18 years old. And I think we have Iva back now. There you are. For the fourth segment, I didn't know if you were going to make it back this one, and I figured you wanted to talk about PTSD. So, Oregon just passed this bill. It would make it illegal to smoke in a car with a minor under the age of 18. Oregon's not the first state to pass a similar bill. Apparently, there have been multiple states nationwide passing bills like this in recent years. I actually was doing a little research, and Maryland makes it illegal to smoke in a car with somebody under 8 years old. It looks like Arkansas under 14, Puerto Rico under 13, California under 18, Utah under 15. So they all have different ages. But the one thing that they all share in common is that it's a secondary offense, meaning an officer cannot pull you over simply for smoking in the car with a minor, but they can ticket you with this once they've pulled you over and detained you for a different reason. So here in Oregon, if you were to be pulled over for, say, speeding or something similar, then you would be able to be cited for smoking in a car with a minor as a secondary offense. And the first offense of this particular violation is a $250 ticket. And then second,
so say that again.
You could be cited as a secondary offense, meaning you cannot be pulled over specifically for smoking in your car.
So much like the seatbelt law.
Well, I think seatbelts you can be pulled over for now, but I think originally it used to be a secondary offense. Same thing with phone calls. It used to be a secondary offense if you were talking on your phone, but now they can pull you over for that reason. So I kind of see this being a trend that it won't be long before they can pull you over for smoking in the car. But the thing that comes up for me, and I'll admit up front, I'm a tobacco smoker, and I do smoke in my car, and I do have kids. So I'll admit that up front. However, I am perplexed by this bill because hypothetically, let's say I'm driving along and I do delivery work and stuff, so I spend a lot of time in my car. If I'm smoking and my ashtray's full of cigarette butts, and then I pick up my kids, and I'm not smoking, but I've got all these cigarette butts, I've got my packs of cigarettes, my lighters, everything I need to smoke, but now it's illegal, so I'm not smoking while the kids are in the car and I get pulled over. Is the fact that I have cigarette butts in my ashtray cause for them to cite me on this? Can I be without any proof? And I know the answer is yes, because I've been found guilty of multiple traffic violations that I didn't commit simply because the officer said so. So that concerns me. Go ahead, you were going to say?
Well, I think, I'm not a smoker, full disclosure, and I'm not a fan of smoking. You and I have had this conversation a number of times, how much I really wish you would quit because of your health, just for that reason. But I also have to say, I think this is a bit ridiculous. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? I mean, it seems to me that the logical approach here, it's kind of like the drug war. We seem to take the wrong approach. We see a problem and we tack it from the wrong end. Why not make cigarettes just safer?
Well, exactly.
Make
such, the vaporizer in the car, or just not make them in general safer. Because if the concern
is that they give off carcinogens
to the secondhand smoker, then why not just, because you're not going to get people to stop smoking. I mean, what's the point of this?
Well, and that's I was going to say that this is so silly to me because hypothetically, if I get pulled over and I have a 19-year-old in the car with me, is this person being carded to determine if I'm committing a crime or not? I mean, it's sort of it changes the entire dynamic of what law enforcement is doing because now they're carding the people with me to see if I'm committing a crime.
Well, how do you have to be to purchase cigarettes? Or how old are you?
18?
Yes.
The law
extends to a minor to being 19?
No. It's if anybody is under the age of 18 in the car with you while you are smoking. So hypothetically, I have a 17-year-old son. He's sitting in the car with me. I smoke a cigarette. I'm guilty of this violation, and I can be charged with a fine. In a couple of months, when he turns 18, it's no longer a violation. So will they be checking his ID?
What if he's a smoker already?
So he's 17 years old and he already smokes cigarettes.
Well, that's technically illegal too, though. I mean, this goes around to the real problem that I have here is that this is completely unenforceable law. And the problem that I have with many of these laws is that the more laws that we make that we can't enforce, the more disrespect for the law there is. If I'm saying that such and such is wrong and it's a crime, whether it be a violation or an actual criminal, charge, and if I say that it's a crime, and then I'm not able to enforce it, I've just made it easier to violate the law and made it more likely that people are going to violate the law, and then it becomes no big deal. It becomes a complete respect for the law, and I think that creating laws that are completely unenforceable is self-defeating.
Well,
It's just
with a bunch of laws that are loosey goosey and useless and a waste of time for people to like you said, enforce. When there's so many other things that
paying attention to. This seems to me that if you want people to stop smoking in the car, we could do a community education service rather than punishing people. It just seems like another infraction or another opportunity to create an infraction.
And again, I mean, how do you prove it?
Right.
With marijuana, it's the fact that you've got marijuana in the car, or you've got a roach in the car, or whatever, and that proves it. With a cigarette, if it's okay for me to smoke in my car, just not in these certain circumstances, how are you proving that? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, what we're doing is we're saying, and this is the part that really sort of offends me as a poor person, we're saying that you can continue to smoke in the car around your kids so long as you pay this penalty. So hypothetically, if I have like just money to blow, and I'm willing to pay the $250 fine and then the $500 fine for every occurrence after that I may get busted, I can smoke forever in the car with my kids. So it's not really about the kids. It's more about a disincentive, and making that fine there. It's only as disincentivizing as that value is to me. You know what I mean? If I've got the money to spend, I get to be more free than the person that can't afford the ticket. And so that kind of raises the question for me, what happens if I don't pay the ticket? Am I going to jail? Have we just made it such that people that can't afford these tickets will now be taken from their homes, much like we do with marijuana laws?
I'm sure what
though is that if you don't, that you'll pay the fine instead of smoking cigarettes or paying for cigarettes. It's ignoring the addiction aspect of it.
Work that way. You do what's
I know.
economically responsible.
I know that, but I'm thinking that
somebody was convinced that they were doing something altruistically. I know if we create these new fines, they'll stop smoking cigarettes because they'll have to pay for these fines.
And I have to say, having this bill passed in the Oregon legislature and doing a little bit of research and seeing such similar bills passing throughout the country, oddly with varying ages. It's not a consistent age across the board, but this idea of smoking with a minor in the car is passing across the country. I want to know the origination of this bill. I want to know where this is coming from, because I think ultimately it's a movement that is missing the point. And the second thing is that I would like to note that in Oregon here specifically, our bill was actually amended. And this is sort of ironic because it's illegal to smoke in public any marijuana as it stands, whether you're a patient or not. But if under this bill, they made it illegal to smoke any cigarettes, cigars. I'm pulling up the text here to see exactly, I have it quoted here. They made it illegal to smoke any lighted device is basically what it boils down to.
Any lighted devices that extend to those
e-cigarettes or those vaporizers?
Would say no, because those aren't actually lighting. The exact wording is a person commits the offense of smoking in a motor vehicle if the person smokes in a motor vehicle while a person under 18 years of age is in the motor vehicle. As used in the subsection, smoke means to inhale, exhale, burn, or carry a lighted cigarette, cigar, pipe, weed, plant, regulated narcotic, or other combustible substance. And so it's like they weren't sure if this would make it okay for you to smoke in the car a joint with a minor if they didn't modify it. It was originally just a cigarette, cigar, or tobacco product. And I kind of find it funny that they took it to that level to specifically prohibit weed or regulated narcotics when those are already illegal to smoke in the car, whether or not there's a child present. So this kind of basically adds another offense if hypothetically you're driving down the street with a joint. Not that I think anybody should be, using marijuana in the car, but if you're driving down the street with a joint and you happen to have a child in the car, this adds another offense for that same criminal behavior of, using marijuana or using it in public should you be a patient. And I don't think anybody should be using, any substance in a car, like as far as a narcotic or anything like that goes. So I get it, but it's kind of funny that they added it in here as a line item, I guess you'd say, before they passed
and
this.
Just in case
you thought we were excluding everything but reefer, no.
We are not.
Right. They wanted to make sure that there was no doubt about their intent. But ultimately, I mean, this is happening across the country. It's
well, I have to say this. One of the things, Jennifer, that I also think about that this is a consequence of this law is, I come
from Idaho where there's a field fire every 5 minutes, and it's generally because someone took a lighted cigarette and tossed it out the window. Now, let me finish though. And then just today, somebody tosses a lighted cigarette out the window. I see this all the time. And not everybody does this. I'm not saying you do this. Not everybody does this. There's a lot of conscientious smokers out there. But it is, one of those things, not smoking in your car, the distraction of lighting the cigarette, I don't know.
Absolutely, but this bill doesn't make it illegal to smoke in the car. It makes it illegal to smoke in the car only in certain circumstances when this minor is present. Second, we've already got a law that makes it like a $5,000 fine to throw a burning object out the window. It's a huge fine, and it's still not stopping people. So that's just another.
All right, that's our cue. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for our final segment. You listen to different.
She's saying that she like me and I like her too. I'm a boss in this shit. Niggas say it ain't true. Say it ain't true. Come on, nigga, you know me. I think the things hella cheap. Just say it ain't true. Come on, bitch. I know the deal. You getting wild off the bill. Say it ain't true. It's up. Say it ain't true.
This is the brain activity of a normal 14-year-old. This is the brain activity of a 14-year-old after smoking marijuana. If you use pot, you're not using your brain.
If you use pot, you're not using your brain.
I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I'm a journalist.
I'm a student.
I'm a teacher.
I'm a representative.
You're like going, I'm gonna beat her.
The outdated laws of prohibition are more dangerous than the plant itself. I lost my scholarship.
I was fired.
20 million arrests since 1965. This is getting ridiculous.
Our prisons are overcrowded with non-violent offenders.
We have the opportunity to change.
This is costing our country billions of dollars.
Making my family and I fight in a courtroom is difficult enough when I'm already fighting through chemotherapy.
There's no reason to be scared by tradition anymore.
We can stop this.
We can stop this.
We are the American people. We can stop this. And you have our support. We're old,
young,
straight,
gay.
We're every race and nationality.
And we're not going to give up.
You can tax it.
You can regulate it. Apply age restrictions.
You can create millions of new jobs.
We can save our economy.
President Obama?
It's time for legalization.
Legalization.
Yes.
We
can.
You're listening to A Different View. I'm Iva Cunningham. We've got Jennifer Alexander, and we've got Brian the Red working on the I don't know what that is over there. I never did. Anyway, one of the things that happened here in Oregon recently is PTSD passed the House. And I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, and now it's just waiting for the governor to sign or to veto, and then after so long, he's probably not gonna, he'll probably sign it. At least that's the plan. Anyway, so it got me looking at what else is out there for PTSD and why there's so much behind this. And I remember going to the early meetings early on, before Oregon raised the fees to really just push out a lot of people. But anyway, so it looks like PTSD is going to be added here. And I know that there's other states that have PTSD as part of their medical marijuana program. But, there's also been an approval, the FDA, approved a new study for PTSD with medical marijuana. The Santa Cruz Multidisciplinary Acts Association, boy, I can't read tonight, for psychedelic studies, received permission from the FDA to study the effects of cannabis on post-traumatic stress disorder. And one of the things they're going to be paying attention to, which is what I kind of found for some of the research that I did, is the general use of cannabis for PTSD symptoms. And there's a doctor, Dr. McCollum, I'm not even saying the name right, but he's an Israeli scientist who identified THC as the psychoactive compound in cannabis and marijuana. Also discovered the endocannabinoid system and the endogenous neurotransmitter anandamide. Boy, it's been a long time since I had to pronounce those words. Anyway, he's very well respected neuroscientist in Israel, and senior advisor to Israeli government on marijuana policy, ethics of research in human subjects. One of the things I thought was really interesting is, after studying all this stuff, he also found another interesting side effect or implication or use of cannabis. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a traumatic event. Doesn't necessarily have to be combat or something like that. There's all kinds of situations and experiences that cause PTSD. But the cannabinoid system is integrately I cannot speak tonight. Is related to memory. Specifically memory of extinction, which is why cannabis and PTSD is really important. Helping people to get out of that mode of panic from the traumatic seizure, if you will. So it goes on to this article, and I'll post this on the Facebook, but, memory extinction is the normal, healthy process of removing associations from stimuli. So, you see something that, causes you to be upset for a few hours, maybe even a few days. But with somebody who's experiencing post-traumatic stress syndrome, certain situations and experiences will bring them right back to that trauma event. And it feels very real. Many people who experience post-traumatic stress disorder experience the smell, the taste, the feel, the pain, visual hallucinations, just as though they were experiencing that experience or that memory all over again. But with cannabis, it helps them, it helps that memory soften, if you will. Some vets say that it takes them out of that trauma cycle as they're experiencing it, so they're able to relax and forget the trauma or forget the panic. The taste, the smell, and those types of stimuli are not as prevalent. And they're not as affected, by the triggers that would take them back to those cycles of trauma, like noises or stress situations or, similar situations that they may encounter on day-to-day life. Were you going to say something, Jennifer?
Memory loss isn't necessarily a bad thing. And
right.
Highlights, you and I were talking a few weeks back about how the studies about apoptosis, which is cell death, structured cell death or pre-programmed cell death, that was one of the things that was noted early on in cannabis research and was considered to be a sign of potential harm from cannabis, that it killed cells. What we've learned since then is that it only kills damaged cells, not healthy cells. So we've learned that what we thought was a downside to cannabis is actually a positive side. It's getting rid of cells that would be otherwise harmful, potential cancerous cells that would metastasize,
right.
Things like this. And it's the same thing with this particular attribute, that by softening those memories, you're able to deal with a problem as opposed to creating one.
Well, instead of you being hypersensitive to those memories and those situations, with the memory extinction caused by, or not caused by, but as related to cannabis, eventually the system settles, if you will, over time. It's kind of like if you cut your hand and after, it takes a while for that to heal. That doesn't mean you're not going to have a scar there or a mark that you will that will remind you of that incident. But even some scars are sensitive, and after a while, those scars, you don't notice them, they fade away. There might be a small white mark or something like that, but that's kind of that's kind of the process here. Your mind has a trauma, and with repeated offenses to trigger that trauma, it doesn't have the opportunity to heal. With cannabis, softening that trigger or the reaction to that trigger allows that memory scar, if you will, to heal, allowing that particular individual to adapt coping skills, but also to not be so super sensitive, like having a raw nerve that's exposed all the time.
So, were you going to ask a question?
I was going to comment. Go ahead, though.
Oh, okay. So,
I find it really fascinating, but this study goes on to talk about, more general use of cannabis for PTSD symptoms. It's exciting to see that they're talking about this component of PTSD, and people who suffer from anxiety, people who suffer from other mental disorders, maybe they be caused by trauma or not, depression, have touted the benefits of using cannabis for a very long time. And, this is the first article that I've seen that really explains why cannabis is beneficial for somebody who's experiencing these situations.
Is that the Veterans Administration for the United States government has actually recognized the legitimacy of medical marijuana in those states that use it. And so many of our veterans are getting to use medical marijuana as well. So this adding of PTSD here in Oregon and states that do allow for it, it's in conjunction with acceptance in the VA, which is beneficial, because if your VA benefits aren't valid because you're using marijuana, then you're losing more than you're gaining by using it. And then the second thing to note is that the governor here in Oregon has until June 5th, I think, to sign the bill, which is like tomorrow. And if he doesn't sign it, it just automatically becomes law. So he could potentially veto it. I don't think he's expecting to.
You try and tell me.
Anticipating that there will be any pushback on this bill. I think we're going to see it pass with flying colors here. And congrats to all of the veterans here in Oregon that have fought so long to make this a reality.
Just one more recognition from them. All right, that's the music, the close of the show. Thank you, Brian, for putting up with me.
And Jennifer, I will talk to you soon, but you're listening to A Different View. It's will be replayed frequently, I'm sure. And I will post the article and the other... sorry, I just can't hear you, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Through all the technical differences, but we are on 420radio.org. We've got our Facebook page, A Different View 420, our Twitter, ADV 420, and we're here every Tuesday currently at 8 p.m., although that may be changing, so stay tuned to find out when we'll be playing.
All right. Have a great night. Talk to you next week.
And I like it a lot. You like your liquor, but I love my pot. Don't make me hungover or act like an ass. You drink your liquor, and I'll smoke my grass. So there, Mr. DUI, who do you think you are? You breathe into a breathalyzer just to start your car. Instead of blowing out, you could have been sucking in. I bet you'd do things my way now if you had to do it over again. You'd like to smoke weed, and you'd like it a lot. But you'd say fuck liquor, I'd rather smoke pot. It don't make me hungover or act like an ass. You ought to give up drinking, start smoking grass. You ought to give up drinking, start smoking grass.
Now it's time for our 420 Radio News for Tuesday, June 4th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. California medical marijuana bill fails, leaving pot industry largely unregulated. From Huffington Post. A bill aimed at bringing some clarity to medical marijuana regulation in California has failed to pass the state assembly in a vote held late last week.